Yo, what up? It's Chris from Black Land Ownership. Out here in DC, see the snow's out. It is cold. It went down to like 12 degrees the other night. And I want to speak to y'all very quickly on my walk home from the grocery store about the notion of human migration and the conversation being all confusing to me. And I'm starting from a point of view of humanism. I'm starting from a point of view of before there were governments, before there were corporations, before there were all these socially constructed ideas, humans did certain things. And one of them is migrate. If we think about it on a base level, animals migrate. We see the birds, when it's summertime, they go up to Canada. When it's wintertime, they go down to Florida or wherever they go, maybe Brazil. But they follow the weather patterns. So animals are designed to like follow the world around them or like adapt to the environment around them. And one of those ways we adapt is we move. We travel with the weather. We travel with the animals. Like some people believe early nomads followed the animals in the herds as they migrated. So then humans were migratory and were not just hunter and gatherers, but like nomadic. That like our primary way of managing the world around us at a certain point was following food sources, following environmental safety, and following other animals and communities. So inherently, that's not wrong. Like inherently, going to where there are more resources is a natural form of adaptation. That's one of the ways humans have survived for hundreds of thousands of years. Then if you go to the next level of once you have governments and states and entities that get to identify borders and establish who's a citizen where, has that been biased? Has that in any way been, would you say, like, objective or done based on human needs? Or are there certain economic needs? Are there certain military needs? Are there ways people are exploited by labeling them as migrants, immigrants, or non-nationals? I mean, the notion of nationality, or the notion of how we delineate who's in the tribe and who deserves equal treatment as a human is odd. So my starting point on any conversation is I'm a humanist. So I don't care about the political party. I don't care about the nationality. I don't care about any of those other things. If you're a human, there are certain ways you deserve to be treated. Whether or not you have paperwork doesn't exclude your humanity. And so the entire conversation to me is way off base. Like, I don't get it. You have a bunch of folks in America who are descendants of immigrants and who did not have paperwork, were not invited to come to America, were not welcome in America. The people who lived in America at the time welcomed some of them, but also tried to fight the rest of them off. And the notion that now the colonist gets to decide who participates or who's a legitimate citizen is ironic, to say the least. And to move on to a deeper level of it, I watched some of the conference in Davos and the different financial leaders and world leaders speaking. And one of the main subjects, even people who disagree with the intensity of how immigration enforcement is going in the United States, all these older white dudes and white women got on stage being like, well, immigration is an actual problem. It's partially ruined Europe. And the Europeans mishandled immigration and let too many people in. And we can't let that happen to America. American folks were being like, look what's happening in Europe with their immigration problems. And in the US, we had an immigration problem. Biden did horrible at the border and yada, yada, yada. But we're going too far now. And I would question this, like, A, why do we have people needing to seek asylum? Why do we have people that are fleeing areas that have experienced economic and political turmoil and turbulence for decades? Part of it's the colonial enterprise. And if the U.S. as a nation, not even just the early colonists, but if the U.S. as a nation didn't disrupt the political, social, and government like life activities of the people who were in Mexico. Oh, Texas, Mexico, California, Mexico, Arizona, Mexico, New Mexico, like all that was Mexico. And so now that people are returning to the lands that they got pushed out of, it's a problem. When you think about how we were involved in El Salvador, how we were involved in Guatemala, Nicaragua, Panama, how many countries did the U.S. purposely destabilize in Central and South America? And so we're surprised that the individuals who live in those nations, who are in no way attached to the government, who are affected, have to then try to go somewhere else to have a reasonable way of living. and they get labeled criminals. The other side of it is Europe handled immigration horribly, not because they let everybody in, but because they stayed racist. They, like the Europeans, and if you've been to Scandinavia, if you've been to Denmark, if you've been to the Netherlands, you've been to these places, you'll meet folks who are like, oh my God, America's so horrible with its racism, but you can't let these Arabs practice their religion. Oh, but you got to watch out for these Turks. And all throughout Europe, there's crazy anti-folks who are brown, and whether they are migrants from Northern Africa, whether they are travelers from West Africa, East Africa, all through Europe, you have people who are afraid of like African takeovers. You have people who are afraid of Turkish takeovers. You have people who are afraid of Arab takeovers. And so what Europe could have done differently to manage their quote unquote immigration problem was A, not be so colonial in the first place to disrupt so many different other cultures, but B, actually incorporate the people into your society that move there. This notion that if you move to a country, you have to assimilate into what they were already doing makes sense if you are a, like, I don't know, like ancient culture where conquering means you impose your way of life on everybody else. But if we are a modern democracy where people have freedoms to express themselves and religion and ways of being, and we want to celebrate diversity like all the Europeans say they do, well then something should have been done to accommodate the fact that people of certain religions wear hijabs or turbans, just like certain people of religion wear yarmulkes. And all that should have been cool. If people move to a country and speak multiple languages, that country being more adept at speaking multiple languages improves the country. If you think about a place like Belgium, you'll have people in Belgium who speak French, who speak Dutch, who speak German, and does anyone quote unquote speak Belgian? No. All right. And it's not a problem. But if in Scandinavia they started teaching classes and Scandinavians had to learn how to speak Arabic in order to accommodate all the Arabs moving there, or had to learn how to speak Turkish, that would have been a problem. People would have said that's unfair. If you think about cultural acceptance and the notion now in the US, like if you move here, you can never say anything about the government. You can never challenge the system. You can never celebrate your culture that you were based in. You have to somehow let go of all that. That's ridiculousness in terms of immigration and in terms of assimilation. Why would that be mandatory if you're moving to a place that celebrates free expression? And so outside of the violence associated with how they're enforcing immigration, just the general conversation is wrong to me. The starting point of we're the wealthiest nation in the country, how are we damaged by providing support for those that are in need? If anything, it seems historically we benefit from having such a strong group of migrants and immigrants. And on an even deeper level, if I were to start saying we didn't handle immigration right and that I'm actually threatened by people coming here from other countries, I want to look at the statistics. And statistically, that's just not true. Like statistically, when I think about it, is it more likely I'm going to run into an issue in the world because of a person who's moved here, or people in power making sure that my housing scenario is difficult, people in power making sure that getting access to healthy food and clean water is difficult, people in power prioritizing banks over humans. So am I more threatened by the billionaires who have said they don't like humanity, or the tech people who have said if they had their way, they'd move people to Mars? And only a couple of the people, because most people aren't worth saving. I should have more comfort with them having power and influence than people from other parts of the country. That doesn't make any sense to me. So I just hope y'all use your brains, do your research. I hope you use your hearts, your souls, your spirits, and look into like how we are treating human migration, how we are treating folks who are in need, how we are treating people that would risk their lives to go to another country in order to try to better their lives. What does that say about the scenario that people have been in? And what is our right, what is our duty actually as humans to the other humans that are in need? All right, so I'm gonna holler at y'all. Be safe.